Former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. It started with the killing of Islamist student leader Usman Hadi. He was declared dead last evening, and thereafter there has been a spiral of violence in which Indian diplomatic missions, minority Hindus and former Awami League folks have been targeted. But one thing is clear, the interim administration of Muhammad Yunus is deliberately fanning these flames, these anti-India flames, this anti-India rhetoric, in the hope of destabilizing Bangladesh and thereby getting to postpone the elections which are slated for February and March. The big question is, if this is being deliberately done, then we need to ask that basic question which confronts India, it confronts the region. Is India being scapegoated to legitimize radicalism, Islamist radicalism, and more importantly, use that and fan the flames of an anti-India sentiment only to derail Bangladesh's scheduled elections? We'll probe that question in a moment, but I want to play out what the actual situation is on the ground in Dhaka, in Chittagong, in other major cities across Bangladesh over the last 24 hours.
Right now, I'm in front of one of the burned news media office. This is one of the leading Bangladeshi newspaper. This is the most read Bangladeshi newspaper in the entire world. I'm here in front of the office of this burned media newspaper. Last night there was a big protest happened inside the entire Dhaka. There was few other places also burned. One just 500 or 300 meters from there. Another news media, the Daily Star buildings also was burned last night. And there was a huge protest after the young leader Sharif Usman Hadi's death. He was shot 1 week before, and last night he was confirmed dead in Singapore. And after that, there was lots of chaos inside the city. So this is one of the places I will show you around. So as you can see, there is already police have sealed the places, and there is it's become a crime scene zone. You can see there is police car, and also inside the building police are collecting the evidence. And this was one of the leading newspaper. Already they were not able to publish today's newspaper, and their online transmissions also not working properly, and it's been stopped actually, if I can say, and the police are heavily guarded here.
So right at the heart of these protests is the simple question, were they spontaneous or was there a coordinated attempt to try and make India look like the villain? Now, here's what happened in the lead up to the protests. On the 11th of December, an Islamist student leader, his name is Sharif Usman Hadi, is shot outside a mosque in Dhaka. No one knows who did this. The incident immediately triggers outrage. Soon after, political operatives falsely link the attack to India, and particularly to former Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. There is no evidence to suggest that. Neither have the Bangladeshi officials found or caught someone who's responsible for the death of the student leader Hadi. Bangladesh then seeks India's cooperation in the investigation. India firmly denies all the allegations, says its soil will never be used for any kind of anti-Bangladesh activities. Then on the 14th of December, Bangladesh summons the Indian High Commissioner there, Pranay Verma, and that escalates diplomatic tensions. A day after that, a Bangladeshi political leader makes a controversial speech to detach the Seven Sisters, which is in reference to India's 7 northeastern states, in a remark that draws very sharp criticism here in India. The next day, on the 17th of December, there are protests that target the Indian High Commission in Dhaka. India responds by formally lodging a diplomatic protest, issuing a démarche and summoning the Bangladeshi High Commissioner here in Delhi. And then yesterday, Sharif Usman Hadi succumbs to his injuries in a hospital in Singapore. His death is declared in Dhaka, and overnight violence breaks out across the country, particularly outside Indian missions, targeting minority Hindus and also targeting former Awami League leaders. New Delhi, though, is keeping a close watch at these developments that are unfolding. Let's listen in to some reactions coming in.
They have to distract attention from the public in a way that would, give the ruling dispensation some advantages, since they have taken an anti-India line as part of their policy.
देखो इसमें इफेक्ट तो ये है, ये लोग शांत नहीं है। यूनिस जो है ये पूरा के पूरा सत्ता में रहने के लिए बहुत कुछ कोशिश कर रहे हैं।
There are certain forces who are not very friendly to India, who are trying to create a difficult situation in Bangladesh.
I want to get quick reactions on this. Dr. Mohsin Ali is a freedom fighter and president of the Bangladesh Human Rights Watch. We'll also be joined by Ms. Veena Sikri, former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh. Dr. Ali, let me start by asking you, everybody here in India is concerned, is absolutely worried about this spiral of violence that we're seeing in Dhaka, in Chittagong, in other places. There seems to be, at least that's the view here from New Delhi, there seems to be a deliberate fanning of the flames, a deliberate fanning of the anti-India sentiment. Is that an accurate view of how things are playing out? Because look at the places that are under attack. They are either, Indian installations, Indian diplomatic missions, the High Commission, Assistant High Commission in Chittagong, or you have, elements that are considered to be close to the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Is it a fair assessment to say that some of this seems to be deliberately targeted violence?
Yes, sir. Good morning from New York. You're right. You rightly said the summary of this situation. In anti-Indian sentiment, creating anti-Indian sentiment in Bangladesh or former East Pakistan is not a new thing. Since India was divided into India and Pakistan in 1947. So Pakistan is always creating problems in East Pakistan, in the then East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh, starting from 1948, and then when Awami League was born, and then 1952, the language movement, and then Ayub Khan came in, and then Yahya Khan came in. So all this, always they use the weapon of anti-Indian sentiment. Since the Bangladesh is a Muslim majority country, now almost 90% of people are Muslims. So they think that and India is a Hindu majority country. They think that this weapon is good for their politics. So that's why they always, for anything, any crisis they want to create, they use this weapon, anti-Indian sentiment they create. This is created like last 24 hours or 40 hours events in Bangladesh is orchestrated by Pakistani ISI. This government, the interim government of Bangladesh, led by Professor Dr. Yunus, is run by IS, in a Pakistan intelligence agency. They are running the whole show, they are running the whole government, and they are creating Bangladesh a field of anti-Indian. So they
but what are they trying to achieve by doing that? What is the end game here? Are they trying to postpone the elections? Are they trying to play to a certain politics that seems to be playing well with the, the student wing of the Jamaat-e-Islami, the new NCP party, other parties? They seem to have taken an anti-India line, so it plays well to their politics. And of course, there is the fact that India also needs to address about Sheikh Hasina and her continued, residency here in India.
India and Awami League are not responsible for the killing of Osman Hadi. Osman Hadi was killed by the Jamati people because Osman Hadi was running for the election on the Dhaka 8 election. And Awami League is not there. It's BNP and Jamati Islami leader, this student leader, Sadiq Qaim. He is the vice president of Dhaka University Central Student Union. So he was supposed to be nominated by the Jamaat Islami in that place, in that seat. But Osman Hadi is already from another Inqilab Mons. He was the representative of the Inqilab Mons. So he already declared his candidacy there. So there is a rival between this Sadiq Qaim of Jamaat Islami and this Hadi. So they fought each other and killed by their agent. And those two persons who are responsible for this, I think they smuggled them to inside India. It's how they can come to India without the government support. So government smuggled them to inside India, and now they're blaming India. India is giving them shelter.
But what is the? I mean, what is the investigative proof or the the evidence that the investigators have gathered so far after this shooting happened. I believe the shooting happened on the 12th. So today is the 19th. It's been a week now. On what basis are they saying that India was responsible for the shooting of this man, this Islamist leader, Usman Hadi?
Yeah, they have to create a situation just to blame India and also by the side of India, the Army League and Sheikh Hasina, so that they think that they can create the movement against Army League, against India, and they can convince the people in Bangladesh that India and Army League are not good for Bangladesh people. So this is the create an ultimate goal. The immediate goal is to postpone the election.
Okay.
And ultimate goal is to make Bangladesh again into a part of Pakistan, East Pakistan, or maybe a confederation with Pakistan, so that Pakistan have two wings to fight against India in the future. So that's their ultimate goal. This.
Okay, Dr. Ali, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. From the Human Rights Watch in Bangladesh, he's giving us his perspective on what's been going on. Make no mistake, there is a deliberate orchestration of this violence. The targets that are being chosen to be attacked by these, mobs, these Islamized mobs, is very clearly, targets of Indian state, like diplomatic missions, etc. Then there are minority Hindus who are being targeted. And of course, there are former members of the Awami League who are being targeted. I want to get an Indian perspective also on this issue. And I want to go across to Madam Veena Sikri. She is former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh. So, Madam, we've seen this since the last year and a half now, since the momentous events of July last and August 5th when Sheikh Hasina was ousted from power. There was a deliberate fanning of this flames against India, anti-India rhetoric. Now we're seeing another version of that today, or at least in the last 3 or 4 days after the killing of this Usman Hadi, who, by the way, was no saint. But how does India deal with this? On the one hand, India has to push back and ask the interim regime of Mr. Yunus, please clamp down on this. This is unnecessarily, you're fanning the flames. And more importantly, you can't just be attacking our missions. That's against the Vienna Convention. But at the same time, how does India stop being this lightning rod, which seemingly is playing to Yunus and the Jamaat-e-Islami and the Students' Party and everybody else? It suits their politics, seemingly.
Yes, it has always suited the politics of the non-liberation war supporters. This is a very important aspect to look at, that post the liberation war of 1971, there has been some kind of democracy in Bangladesh at all times, elections one after the other, caretaker government. Even the 2 periods of military rule were overcome by the Awami League and BNP coming together and bringing down voluntarily the President Ashad at the time. Now, this interest in democracy and stability is a big factor in Bangladesh. The supporters of this group wanting democracy and stability goes far beyond the Awami League. It's not just a political party issue. There are many people who may not support Sheikh Hasina, but they still want a democratic polity in Bangladesh. And this was proved very recently when the Pratham Alo published a national opinion survey in Dhaka in their newspaper and said that 70% of those polled wanted the Awami League to participate in the election. It's not that they are going to vote for the Awami League, no, but they wanted the Awami League to participate in the elections so that it's a free, fair and stable election, and then you can go on with your lives, whatever the outcome is. Now, this is what these groups are opposing. They are whipping up this anti-India propaganda because India has taken a very strong position saying that we want free, fair, inclusive and participatory elections. And I think India has to work hard to ensure that, get the global support for this, because without that, Bangladesh will descend into complete chaos. There is already this whole, Jamaat-e-Islami supporters who want a caliphate, and this is not accepted to the people. Jamaat-e-Islami thought that they will automatically get the support of the people once Awami League is out of the picture, but that has not happened. and they are venting their fury on India, which is quite wrong. And we have taken it up so strongly, blaming India. Hardly the attack had taken place, and our High Commissioner was called in to blame India, which is absolutely unacceptable. And now even our positions there are being attacked, and the police and army have to come out to defend the Indian position. So I think that India has showed a lot of strategic restraint so far. We have said we are prepared to deal with this government, but substantive work will take place only after the elections. But we want the elections to be free, fair, and inclusive. We want that the election to lead to stability in Bangladesh, and this is what we have to work for with all the regional, national, and global support that we can get.
Okay, Meera Sikri, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, ma'am. The former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh, with her thoughts and perspective on what is going on, what's the end objective, both for Yunus, the other parties. Clearly, they realize that the Awami League still has a lot of residual support, and even if the Awami League is banned, as is the case by the Yunus interim administration, the fact remains that a large majority of Bangladeshis want elections to happen. Those elections are scheduled for February and March, but Yunus, the Jamaat-e-Islami, maybe even the BNP, we don't know, but certainly the Jamaat-e-Islami and the newly formed NCP party want to push back those elections because they feel the electoral battleground is not in their favor. Now, you heard the analysis, but why has Bangladesh reached this particular point? There is a build-up to the chaotic scenes that we witnessed yesterday. It did not happen in isolation. It was deliberately fanned, flamed, and orchestrated by the Yunus regime. If not tacit support, certainly they have allowed, or at least allowed the situation to fester. What is the complete story, and how have we got to such a point? I dig a little more deeper into what brought about these calamitous events over the last 24 hours. Recent developments in Bangladesh have sent alarm bells ringing in New Delhi. The death of Islamist student leader Sharif Usman Hadi, shot last week in Dhaka and later treated in Singapore, has plunged Bangladesh into fresh turmoil. There were violent street protests, attacks on media houses, arson, and a sharp spike in anti-India rhetoric. Indian diplomatic missions have come under threat. Indian journalists and foreign policy planners are watching this very closely with great unease. Is India being deliberately scapegoated to justify rising Islamist radicalism and destabilize Bangladesh ahead of elections? Let's dig right in. Sharif Usman Hadi, 32 years old, was a radical Islamist student leader and a vocal critic of both India and former Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. On the 12th of December, masked gunmen shot Hadi as he was leaving a mosque in Dhaka. He was hit in the ear, critically injured, and later flown to Singapore for treatment. On the 18th of December, Hadi succumbed to his injuries. His death became the trigger not just for protests, but for a politically charged narrative that rapidly descended into violence. Even before the facts were established, political operatives began circulating allegations linking Hadi's attack to India and to Sheikh Hasina. This despite one inconvenient truth, and that is that Hadi was a staunch critic of both India and Hasina. Bangladesh officially sought India's cooperation in the probe into Hadi's death. India responded firmly, rejecting the insinuations and stating very clearly that India will never allow its soil to be used against Bangladesh. But the damage had already been done. Let's break down how these events spiraled out of control. On the 14th of December, Indian High Commissioner to Dhaka, Pranay Verma, was summoned by the Foreign Office there. The very next day, on the 15th of December, a leader in Bangladesh's Nationalist Congress Party, a new party, makes a provocative call to detach India's 7 sisters, or the 7 northeastern states. The next day, on the 17th of December, Islamist groups call for a march to the Indian High Commission in Dhaka. India summons Bangladesh's High Commissioner in Delhi, formally protesting and flagging concerns over the safety of Indian diplomats. Protests then erupt outside the Indian High Commission in Dhaka. Anti-India slogans are raised there. The next day, on the 18th of December, the protest spread. It goes to many other cities in Bangladesh. The Rajshahi Visa Center had to be shut down because of the widening protests. The Assistant Indian High Commission in Chittagong is also attacked. Later that night, which is the night of the 18th of December, Hadi's death is officially announced, and that is when the situation explodes. Interim government chief Muhammad Yunus addresses the nation, but he does little to assuage the situation. The intervening night of December 18th and 19th saw widespread unrest. Violent protests were seen outside the Indian Assistant High Commission in Chittagong. There was stone pelting, barricades were broken, threats were issued openly on the streets. Videos show militant participation of various student bodies affiliated with the Jamaat-e-Islami and the new party, the NCP. Across Bangladesh, there was arson and rioting. Highways were blocked and the homes of former ministers and Awami League supporters were brutally attacked. The army had to be deployed in multiple locations, including inside the Dhaka University premises. Perhaps most chillingly, media offices were also targeted, including the largest Bengali newspaper, Prothom Alo, and the largest English daily, the Daily Star. At least 30 journalists had to be rescued in Dhaka as mobs started attacking newsrooms. This was no longer spontaneous outrage. This was organized intimidation.
উপস্থিত আছেন এবং তারা একটি বিক্ষোভ মিছিলে তুমি কি আমি কি হাদি হাদি স্লোগান দিয়ে তারা শাহবাগ এলাকায় প্রবেশ করছে আপনারা দেখতে।
ওসমান হাদি ছিলেন পরাজিত শক্তি, ফ্যাসিস্ট সন্ত্রাসীদের শত্রু। তার কণ্ঠ স্তব্ধ করে বিপ্লবীদের ভয় দেখানোর অপচেষ্টা সম্পূর্ণভাবে ব্যর্থ করে দেন। ভয়, সন্ত্রাস কিংবা রক্তপাতের মাধ্যমে এদেশের গণতান্ত্রিক অগ্রযাত্রা কেউ থামাতে পারবে না।
This government can tolerate any kind of criticism of government. So, who criticizes the government? If in little way, the journalists attacked by the government as well as July protesters, basically NCP and Kalapate Muslims or sound like party. Now, army, a lot of army now deployed in front of Pathumala and Daily Star. You know that my office also just opposite of Daily Star. So a lot of army we see now.
CNN News 18 has accessed fresh intelligence assessments pointing to a much larger design. And here are some key warnings. This entire breakdown is managed instability which is being engineered ahead of the elections. The elections are due for February and March next year. The goal of this entire breakdown of law and order is to project that the upcoming elections in Bangladesh are unsafe, thereby allow radical street power to consolidate in favor of Muhammad Yunus. Yunus knows that post the elections, he becomes an irrelevant figure in Bangladesh. Hadi's killing is being used as a catalyst, not merely being mourned. Anti-India sentiment is being deliberately amplified. Indian diplomatic assets and missions are being specifically targeted, which is a clear violation of the Vienna Convention. The message is simple but dangerous. Blame everything on India. Legitimize radicalism and derail the political process. For New Delhi, the concern is threefold. Number one and topmost priority is the safety of Indian diplomats and Indian missions across Bangladesh. Number two, the Islamist mobilization using India as some kind of a lightning rod. And number three, regional instability that is spilling across the borders. Remember, large parts of the India-Bangladesh border are still porous. India has already issued a formal démarche. It summoned the Bangladesh High Commissioner. India has been demanding that Bangladesh ensures the safety of all Indian diplomatic premises and personnel and act against rising anti-India Islamist rhetoric. So the question that India must confront is India being scapegoated to legitimize radicalism and derail Bangladesh's elections? Is the death of Usman Hadi being weaponized not for justice but for seeding organized chaos? Meanwhile, let's shift focus here on brass tacks. A devotee of Lord Muruga died by self-immolation in Madurai, reportedly over the Tamil Nadu government's refusal to allow Hindus to light the Kartigai Deepam lamp at the sacred hill in Tirupurankundram. The victim, approximately 40 years old, set himself on fire near a statue of Periyar, the late Dravidian leader. He succumbed to severe burn injuries shortly after the moments after he self-immolated. His name is Purna Chandran. He left a voice message to a friend, which was later shared with his family, expressing his intent to end his life in protest against the DMK government's refusal to permit lighting the sacred lamp at the traditional Deepathoon, which is on top of this hill in Tirupurankundram. In that message, he's also referenced Periyar's atheistic views and hoped that his act would enable the ritual, which is the lighting of the lamp on the Tibatun next year.
ஏன் இதை பெரியார் சிலை முன் நிகழ்த்தினேன்னா, திருப்பரங்குன்றத்திலே போய் நிகழ்த்தலான்னு எனக்கு ஒரு எண்ணம் இருந்துச்சு. ஆனால் நான் இப்படி ஒரு காரியம் பண்ணுறேன், அந்த காரியத்தினால இந்த கோயிலுக்கு களங்கம் ஏற்படக்கூடாதுன்னு தான் அதை பெரியார் சிலை முன்னாடி நடத்துகிறேன். கடவுள் இல்லைன்னு சொல்கிறவங்களுக்கு முன்னாடி கடவுளுக்காக ஒரு விஷயம் செய்யும், அதுதான் என்னோட எண்ணம். இதையும் இந்த பதிவையும் எல்லாரும் ஷேர் பண்ணி விடுங்க. நன்றி. பூர்ணச்சந்திரன், மதுரை. வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு அரோகரா. வீரவேல் முருகனுக்கு அரோகரா.
All right, I want to go for a quick face-off on this. Narayanan Tirupati is chief spokesperson of the Tamil Nadu BJP. C. Rajasekaran, lawyer and political analyst. Mr. Tirupati, you know, this audio has been put out by some people close to his family. We don't know, we can't vouch for the audio. The BJP is saying this, the DMK is saying this is some morphed audio, this is not believable, and so on and so forth. Be that as it may, it brings to sharp relief the anguish of not just this unfortunate, devotee who committed suicide, who self-immolated, but thousands, in fact millions of Hindu devotees in Tamil Nadu who are anguished by the decision of the DMK government to appeal against the order by Justice G.R. Swaminathan allowing Hindus to light the lamp at the Tibatun. The state government's contention is there is no recorded history that the Tibatun is where this lamp was lit over the last 100 years or so. That matter is still pending in appeal before the High Court. They are saying you are needlessly politicizing this issue. How will you respond?
No, Dhaka, nobody is politicizing this. This is the government which has politicized this. And the government of Tamil Nadu, the state government, has, hurt millions and millions of Hindus, their sentiments and emotions. That is what the government has done. Even in this suicide, Zaka, not only the denial of the government to light the lamp there, but the reason given by the government during the appeal, say the work board which is supported by the government says that it is not, it belongs to the Dargah. And the HRNC board itself says that it is not a Hindu place, it is a Jain's place. And the temple management says that it is not a Dibatun, it is only a survey stone. So all these things have definitely troubled him. And the government wantedly, in order to appeasement of minorities, elections are nearing. It is communal. This DMK government is communal, and it has supported. It wants them to eradicate Sanatana Dharma. That is what the policy of Mr. Udayanithi Stalin, who has said that both the Dravidian ideology and the Christian ideology are same. Today, that is what he has said. I feel it is a derogatory to bring a religion to that of Dravidian ideology. So these people, for want of votes, communally, they have killed one person. That is what I say. It is a blunt, I am telling you, it is killing, and the government has to take responsibility for this.
Okay, Mr. Rajasekaran, this whole thing would have, gone off the news cycle. This whole story would have died a natural death had the state government just followed the order of the single judge bench of the High Court. It is because the state government went in appeal and then, did all of this drama around the impeachment motion around Justice Swaminathan that ultimately it came to this situation where the government is seemingly seen as disregarding the sentiment of millions of Hindu faithful in the state. The government could have well avoided this entire controversy by just accepting the single judge bench order.
Zaga, for a kind information, the government, whichever government it may be, when the matter is before the court, before the division bench on appeal, it is a duty of the government to bring the facts to the knowledge of the court, which the government of the day has done. It has nothing to do with Hinduism, Muslims or Christians. It is purely on merits. What is the history? What is the records available was submitted. And the BJP, which is desperately trying to polarize the votes, where in Tamil Nadu, Hindus, Christians, Muslims and others are living as brothers and sisters, and they are all together. And the Hindutva ideology of BJP and RSS is are trying their best to polarize the vote share because of elections. which is not, which they are unable to succeed. The division bench has stayed the single bench order. The
No, but
judge in
sir,
question.
who went in
No, I'll
appeal to
tell
the
you.
division bench? The state
No,
went,
I'll
The
tell
right?
you.
division bench
No,
has
it
not
The
is a
not
right.
state had a
Don't lie
problem.
as
The
like
state went in
you are not
appeal.
lying.
It is a right.
Why did the
It is a
state
right.
not
There is no
accept the
state.
single judge bench order?
No.
It's a simple
Single
question.
judge. No, I really laud the single judge, Justice G.R. Swaminathan, for following whatever ideology he is attached or he is affiliated to.
Oh,
But as
that
a judge,
itself wrong.
no,
No,
I'll
that
tell
itself
you,
is
the
wrong.
judge,
Now you don't act
the
as a
judge,
judge. You don't act as a judge. You are trying to act as a judge and see, you are an
the
advocate
judge,
by profession. You
judge,
don't act as a judge.
I'll tell you, the judge in question is
No,
entitled
he is
to
not in
follow
question.
whichever
He
ideology.
is not in
See, I'll tell
question.
you.
He is a person who
I'll tell you.
answers.
Sir,
I'll tell
let
you,
him
the judge
answer.
is
Sir,
not
but
above,
Mr.
the
Rajshekharan,
above
you are a member
everybody.
of the bar.
Judge is also
Let's
No, you are
let's
not
not
above
cast
the law.
aspersions.
The judge.
Let's
Why
not
you
cast
are
aspersions on
has
a
to
judge.
follow
Yeah, go
the
ahead.
Constitution. The judge in question has to follow the Constitution,
No,
the rule of law,
how dare you
and
say that he
he
is
is
not following
entitled to give
Constitution?
whatever order,
How dare
and the
you say?
government of the day
Any
is
court
entitled
has
to
said
go
that
for
he
an
is
appeal.
not following the Constitution?
I'll tell you,
How
the
dare you
government of the
say
day
a
has
judge has
got.
not followed the Constitution?
No, I'll
Who
tell
are you
you,
to say
the
that?
judge.
Who are you to say that?
I am a citizen of this country,
No,
and secondly,
you
I am
don't.
a
You
lawyer.
don't have the right to say. When you are a lawyer,
The
you should
judge
talk
is
responsibly. If you are a lawyer,
whatever
you
the
should talk
judge.
responsibly. Then you accept you are not
What?
a
No,
lawyer,
no.
you are a liar.
In
I'll tell
what
you.
form or
No, I'll
shape,
tell you, the judge-
Mr.
the judge-
Rajshekharan,
the
in
judge-
what
I'll
form
tell
or
you,
shape
why BJP
has the
is
judge in
desperately
question
batting for the
violated
judge?
the Constitution?
No. Why the BJP is desperately batting for the judge?
Why you are
Integrity.
batting for a Dravida model? Why you are
I am
batting
not
for the
batting for
government?
anybody. I'm
Why
purely.
you are supporting? Why are you
I'm
supporting
purely speaking on
DMK?
merits.
Why
No,
are you
I'm not
supporting the
supporting.
DMK? Why are you
If you say
supporting the
even
police
DMK,
official,
even
collector,
DMK,
everyone who has violated the judge's order? Why you are
DMK will
supporting a
laugh.
person who have come to, who have done a contempt of court? How can you
DMK
do
will
that?
laugh. DMK
What
will
DMK
laugh.
will laugh?
BJP
We
is
are laughing
desperate.
at you.
And
We are laughing at you.
The
And you
judge in
are
question.
casting aspersions on the judge.
The judge in question must maintain the
He is
decorum
not
of
in
his oath.
question. You are in question. We question you
The judge,
as to why you are supporting the DMK.
Judge must maintain
Why
the
you have
oath,
this ulterior
whatever he has
motive?
taken.
Why
The judge
Rajashekar
should not
should have
cross the
ulterior
Lakshman
motive?
Rekha. The judge should not cross the Lakshman Rekha. He is entitled to whatever he must do within the purview of law.
First you try to follow what the judge says.
One second. Let's
he
deal with
cannot
this.
quote-
Let's deal with
quote,
this one at a time.
Sanatan
Mr.
Dharma,
Rajshekharan,
Sanatan
one
Dharma,
second.
Manusmriti and all.
One second.
He cannot quote
Mr.
Sanatan Dharma,
Rajshekharan,
Manusmriti.
you have
He
said
has to maintain- he has to go by the Constitution.
you have
He
said
has
that
to
the
go by
judge
the
in question
Constitution.
has violated the Constitution. Please elaborate as to how he
I'll
has
tell you.
violated the
I'll tell you.
Constitution by
Where is-
delivering
which
what everybody
Constitution?
says is a reasonable judgment.
How do you say? How can you say?
If
that?
anyone has violated the Constitution, it's those members
tell you.
of Parliament who
I'll tell
moved
you.
an
I'll
impeachment
tell you.
motion
I'll
against
tell
the
you.
judge
Allow me.
without
Allow me to
any,
speak. I'll tell you.
malafide
Allow me to
evidence
speak.
being shown
Dhaka.
that he has been,
Dhaka.
you know,
Dhaka.
either
Allow me to speak.
indulging in financial
Dhaka.
discrepancy
Dhaka, you
or
allow me
he's
to
been
speak.
indulging in, character assassination
Dhaka.
or financial fraud.
Dhaka,
Nothing.
Allow me to speak.
Yeah.
Allow
Tell
to
me.
speak.
Tell me.
I'll tell you.
Tell me.
The judge should follow the Constitution. No judge should
Who
quote
are you
Sanatan
to say
Dharma.
that he has not followed the
Sanatan
Constitution? That's what I'm
Dharma.
asking.
And no
What
judge should
Sanatan
quote
Dharma?
Manusmriti
Sanatan Dharma
in his orders.
is in the blood
No,
of this country.
it is
Sanatan
not.
Dharma is in
That
the
is your
life of this
ideology.
country.
That is
Our
your ideology. That is your ideology. That is not
his
the
country.
Constitution.
That is his
That is
culture.
not the Constitution.
Sanatan
The
Dharma is not
Constitution is not
religious.
Sanatan
Sir,
Dharma.
please,
Sanatan Dharma is
no, sir,
following the
please
rule of
tell
law.
me, Mr. Rajshekharan, again and
the
again
judge-
I'm
judge
asking
cannot
you,
quote Manusmriti
as an
and,
advocate, as a
he
member
cannot
of the
quote,
bar,
Sanatan
which
Dharma.
article of the Constitution of India did this said judge violate?
Say, I'll tell you now. The judge takes a oath, right?
Yes.
What oath he takes? He should not take sides. He should not discriminate anybody in
Which
the
is
name of
a
religion,
reason.
caste, and
The
creed.
government
And
has
how can
taken
you
the
take
side
sides?
of,
How can he
the
take sides?
government has
in
literally, the
one?
government is
See,
saying
there
that
is
he is favoring
an
Brahmins.
order. There is
Just
an order.
because he is a Brahmin,
And the judge
you
in
and other
conversation.
people, including
the
the
judge should
government,
maintain the
you are
decorum. He should
abusing.
follow the oath. No, judge
The
should maintain the
government is
decorum and the
saying that
oath.
he is
Okay.
favoring the
Follow the
Brahmins.
oath. No. Come on.
No,
Don't
that is what the
bring all
government has
this.
said.
No,
why I am not
don't
wrong.
bring.
No, I am not wrong.
No.
The DMK
No.
MPs is the 100 MPs who signed that, they have
See,
mentioned it. They have
I
mentioned
respect
it.
Brahmins.
You are talking for
Brahmins.
them.
I respect
See,
Brahmins.
the 100
I have
MPs on
high regard for
impeachment, they
Brahmins.
have included this.
I have
They
high
have
regard for
included this,
Brahmins.
Rajshekhar. Then why have we not condemned that? Why have you
No,
not
no.
condemned
See,
that?
I
Okay.
tell you, it has nothing to do with
Why have you
Brahmins.
not condemned
No,
that?
it is the
why
rule
have
of
you
law.
not
He has
condemned
to
that?
follow the
They
rule.
have
Okay,
See,
no,
I
no,
don't- I
Mr.
don't
Rajsekharan,
agree with all this.
again,
All
if
this
anyone,
Brahmin stuff
if
and all, I
anyone
don't
has
agree.
not followed the rule of, is the state by not providing security and ensuring that they follow an order of a judge of the High Court by allowing devotees to light the lamp. If anyone has not followed the rule of law, that is, the onus is on the state, it's not on the judge.
No. I'll tell you, when the judges passed an order, single judge, the state is entitled to go for an appeal, which the state did. It went for a division bench appeal.
Is there any
No.
stay? There is no
Yeah,
stay.
Today
What
there
is
is a
this?
stay.
There is
Today
no
there is
stay.
a stay.
No,
Today
that is
there
for
is
a
a stay.
different case. You first understand the cases. That is for a
No,
different
no.
case. What last second?
No,
You
no,
don't
no.
know
I'll
that?
tell you.
That is
Okay.
for a
I'll tell
different
you,
case.
the
It
judge-
is not
the
for
judge
this case. You
Okay,
understand this?
we'll
The
leave it
judge
at
in
that.
conversation-
Mr. Rajsekharan, Mr. Tirupati, we'll leave it at that. Let's see. Ultimately, the High Court division bench has to come out with the final order as to whether the lamp can be lit, where it can be lit, and whether or not it takes into account the sentiment of millions of Hindus in that state. I want to move on to the other big story. India and the Netherlands have been strengthening cooperation with a 3-day visit of the Dutch Foreign Minister David Van Wiel. Engagements included meetings with External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar, Rajnath Singh, the Defence Minister, and the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Devendra Fadnavis, along with meetings with the business community in Mumbai. David Van Wiel and Dr. Jaishankar discussed developments in the Indo-Pacific, the ongoing war in Ukraine, the South and West Asian regions, as well as other regional and global issues. Both sides condemned terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, and also emphasized the need for strengthening international cooperation to combat terrorism in a comprehensive and sustained manner. India reiterated its policy of zero tolerance against terrorism. Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh and Foreign Minister David Van Wiel of the Netherlands reaffirmed the strong and growing defense partnership between both countries. Both ministers discussed a range of bilateral security and defense issues, including some priority areas for co-development and co-production of defense equipment. They reaffirmed the commitment to enhance military-to-military cooperation with a focus on developing defense as a key pillar of the strategic partnership. Both countries also intend to explore the possibilities of defense cooperation in those identified areas for the mutual benefit by developing a defense industrial roadmap for technology collaboration, co-production and co-development of platforms and equipment. The discussions also highlighted the shared commitment of both India and the Netherlands to a free, open, inclusive and rules-based Indo-Pacific region. But the absolute key industry in which the Netherlands is an important partner is in semiconductors. In fact, the Netherlands produces highly advanced semiconductor chips, which no other country in the world does, as a result of which they are now a key member of this new alliance, Pax Silica. I got a chance to sit down with the Dutch Foreign Minister David Van Wiel earlier today in a freewheeling conversation. So the relationship between India and the Netherlands has grown manifold in the last few years, particularly in the last 12 months. I'm joined by a very special guest, the Honourable Foreign Minister of the Netherlands. Thank you very much, Mr. David Van Wiel, for joining us here on CNN News 18. You're on a 2-day visit to India. Talk us through why you believe this relationship has really moved into a high gear now. We're seeing a lot of engagement in the last 10-12 months or so.
So I think the Netherlands and India have always had a good relationship. We've been building on classical strong points of the Netherlands, like water management, like clean water, like waste management, agriculture, horticulture. So that relationship was always there. But I think that in recent years, as we see the geopolitical situation changing, we are looking for partners that are democracy oriented, that have respect for the rules-based international order, and at the same time the potential to grow and to have a technological edge that we are looking for as well in the Netherlands.
So after Operation Sindoor, which happened earlier this year, Foreign Minister Jaishankar, India's foreign minister, I think the first country that he visited, or one of the first countries that he visited, was the Netherlands. Netherlands also has this shared concern around counterterrorism. How do you view that particular issue and how India and the Netherlands can cooperate on that?
Well, over the past 2 days, of course, I've offered my condolences for what happened in April last year. And I think those attacks were horrible, and those images went all over the world, also to the Netherlands, and they shocked the public. I think that's what these terrorists are after, to shock the public, to derail our way of living, and make us change our minds and make us scared. We've seen it in Bondi Beach just the other day. So I offer my full support. I think we all need to combat radicalism, we need to combat terrorism, and make sure that we stand up to this and eradicate it.
What can democracies like the Netherlands or India do to eradicate this?
So we are open democracies, and that's great because we believe in self-deployment of people, initiative, freedom, freedom of expression, freedom of press. At the same time, when we are too tolerant to the intolerant, I think that's where the danger of extremism and radicalism comes in. So I think both India but also the Netherlands need to come to grips to what kind of intolerance can we not accept anymore in our democracies, and how are we going to shape the policies that are needed for that.
So there is this debate in the West. It's not just in the Netherlands, it's there across much of Europe, in the US, now in Australia, that they see a sort of link between immigration and rising intolerance or rising, instances of extremism. Countries like India may not necessarily view it that way. What is your view?
Well, I'm also the Minister of Asylum and Migration, and I think, yes, we do have issues with migration in Europe, across Europe. We've had too high of an influx, we've had too high of a burden on our societies in order to be able to integrate these people in a proper manner. So I think that in order to keep this public support for asylum as such, we also need to make sure that we bring this within a band that is bearable for society. And that includes, of course, filtering for radicalism, for extremism, making sure that we are clear that that will not be tolerated in our streets.
I want to talk about a lot of buzz now around the India-EU FTA. The European Commissioners, I believe, are going to be the chief guests for India's Republic Day next month. Is there anything that you can share with us about potentially the announcement and the signing of that agreement in some days from now?
Well, I hope a result or an agreement is reached soon. It's not easy to reach free trade agreements with the EU. We have 27 nations. Of course, they have different industries, different interests. So to bring that together is a big task, but I believe that it is in our interest, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, to have stronger ties with India as an EU, and an FTA will be the excellent example of these ties deepening.
But it's also coming at a time when there's a lot of pushback against trade and trading arrangements, WTO mechanisms. We're seeing what President Trump and his tariffs are doing around the world. So how do you square one against the other?
So we're not in favor of this tariff approach to trade. We've always been in favor of WTO regulated trade, free trade. That's what our nation was founded on over the past hundreds of years. But what we also see is that nations are misusing our open and free trade system, for example, by stealing IP or by dumping goods on our markets, by making it impossible for our industry to survive in Europe. So I think that, yes, we are very much pro-free trade. We are very much pro-free trade agreements with good partners and nations that share our same vision. At the same time, probably we also have to be critical to how can we sustain our own economies in a way that makes it as free as possible, but also by building up barriers where they are needed.
So you say, some countries have taken advantage of the free trade arrangements and the WTO rules, dumping and so on. Clearly, the reference is to China. How are you squaring off Europe's huge trade volumes with China with some of the concerns that you just mentioned?
So China is a very important economic partner for the European Union, and that will not change. At the same time, we also see that China can be a systemic rival, and that China can use its economic influence into that portfolio. So I think that for Europe, we do want a good trading relationship with China, at the same time reducing our dependencies where needed in critical areas, I think is a wise thing to do. That should not hamper a good relationship, but it should take any form of coercion or too much dependency out of the equation, and I think that's to the benefit of both sides. That's also where I think a country like India has a lot of potential in that regard.
How do you see the role of India in that regard?
So I see that India has a lot of ambitions when it comes down to, for example, becoming a hub for new technologies, for AI, for the semiconductor industry, for talent development within your excellent universities. So I think those are all areas where India is stepping up to the plate and wanting to play a bigger role in the world.
You mentioned semiconductors. Obviously, the Netherlands is a critical node, a critical country in the whole semiconductor ecosystem, the supply chain. What do you see as the avenue or the path that India can provide in becoming a critical node in semiconductor manufacturing?
So I think that's also a journey that you have to venture into and then see what part of the supply chain is feasible but also attractive and fits within your economy. So we already have a Dutch semiconductor company that's very active here in China. It's called NXP, a former spin-off of Philips. They do design of very sophisticated mobility chips, and most of that design happens here in India at the 4 locations that they have. Now they express their willingness also to become more of a production site and build fabs to actually not only do the design but also do the production. I think it's those kind of avenues that under a joint MOU, the Netherlands and India will be looking at and to see what fits both countries best.
We have seen recently in the last few months the sort of weaponization of these semiconductor supply chains, the rare earth supply chains by China. There is now a new alliance or a partnership called Pax Silica that's been unveiled by the United States, and the Netherlands is part of that. India is not. What can India do to address and to become part of such critical alliances?
Well, I think it's called a Pax Silica because the idea is that we have a joint interest in creating a reliable supply chain in the silicon industry. So it's not a club that is mutually exclusive or will not be open to any future members. So I think any nation willing to play a critical role in that supply chain will in the end be of value to this alignment.
You talked about India being good at semiconductor design, but not necessarily in the manufacture or the refining and the processing of rare earths. And that is where China seems to have taken a lead, or China seems to have even got to the extent of using that as a weapon of trade. What is the world community sort of expecting from India to move that needle with less dependency on just one country?
Well, exactly as I said, I think in diversifying supply chains, in having multiple options, I think India is a very interesting country. There's a lot of potential here. There's, of course, a huge workforce with a high level of education. There's the vast amount of land. So in all different aspects, we can already see production facilities arising here in India, for example, when it comes down to the Apple iPhones. And I think you will see more of that happening as the diversification becomes more of a norm instead of the exception.
And what can the Netherlands do to help India move up the supply chain, the value chain as far as semiconductors are concerned?
So with semiconductors, as I said, we have a few companies already present here. We have very good ties between the Dutch universities and the Indian universities. As you probably know, one of our biggest gems in the Netherlands, ASML, the manufacturer of high-end chip production machines, is located in Eindhoven. So the whole ecological ecosystem around Eindhoven is already very popular with Indian students. There are 10 cricket teams, I believe, in the vicinity of Eindhoven. And that's not because Dutch people have all of a sudden become very interested in cricket. So these ties are already there. They're expanding, and the MOU that we signed is designed to see in all of the different areas, from R&D to talent exchange to common design and production, what we can do more.
You talked about Indians sort of taking a great interest in cricket and cricket teams around Eindhoven. Indians travel a lot to the Netherlands. I believe Amsterdam is one of the popular destinations for Indians to travel, young Indians to travel there. What would you say to them?
Go to Rotterdam. I think Rotterdam is one of the most undervalued cities in Europe. It's less crowded with tourists, and you will have a great time.
And what about the legendary footballing rivalries between your two famous cities?
Yeah, well, that will always continue, but those rivalries are the rivalries that we can have. They're good for cohesion.
All right. And I finally want to get to the last part of this interview where, very recently we had the visit of the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. India has a certain position as far as the Ukraine war is concerned. Europe has a very different position. We're having conversations now around the Trump 20-point peace plan. Europe, I believe, has just agreed to release another almost $100 billion for Ukraine to fight. What would you want to say to the Indian government, because it has good relations with both Ukraine and Russia, in a way to try and bring this war to a conclusion?
So I think we're all on the same page when it comes down to wanting this war to end. This is an extremely bloody war. The small gains that Russia is gaining on the battlefield come at a huge cost, both to Russia and to Ukraine. So it is high time that both sides can come to the table and reach a durable and lasting peace. And that's the most important part, that whatever the outcome will be of these negotiations, that it will put Ukraine in a position that it shouldn't fear the next invasion from Russia anytime in the near future, and that it can also prosper as an independent nation with a thriving economy. And that will be the European inset for this whole discussion. That's also why we pledged another 90 billion in support to show that we are behind Ukraine for as long as it takes, so Ukraine has a strong card at the table.
What sort of role do you foresee India being able to play in bringing about a resolution to this war?
So India has maintained open channels with Russia, hence also the visit of President Putin here. I think that also allows India to coerce President Putin to make an end to this war and come to the negotiation table. That's probably a position that we in Europe don't have at the moment, but that a country like India can still have. So that would be my request.
So finally, what would your pitch be to the Indian people, to students, to technology workers who are now looking at alternate destinations to go, given what's going on in the US and in Western Europe? Is there a pitch that you would like to make?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of perspective for collaboration between the European Union and India. As I said, I think we're very like-minded countries. We are open, free societies. We are technology-oriented. So there's a lot to do together.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. David Van Weel, and we hope you had a good time here in India. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Let's go straight across to a CNN News 18 exclusive, and it's a big story. Joining us now is Moibul Hassan Chaudhry. He's also known as Naufal. He's a former Bangladesh.
Focus here on brass tacks. A devotee of Lord Muruga died by self-immolation in Madurai, reportedly over the Tamil Nadu government's refusal to allow Hindus to light the Kartigai Deepam lamp at the sacred hill in Tirupurankundram. The victim, approximately 40 years old, set himself on fire near a statue of Periyar, the late Dravidian leader. He succumbed to severe burn injuries shortly after the moments after he self-immolated. His name is Purna Chandran. He left a voice message to a friend, which was later shared with his family, expressing his intent to end his life in protest against the DMK government's refusal to permit lighting the sacred lamp at the traditional Deepathoon, which is on top of this hill in Tirupurankundram. In that message, he's also referenced Periyar's atheistic views and hoped that his act would enable the ritual, which is the lighting of the lamp on the Deepathoon next year.
ஏன் இதை பெரியார் சிலை முன் நிகழ்த்தினேன்னா, திருப்பரங்குன்றத்திலே போய் நிகழ்த்தலான்னு எனக்கு ஒரு எண்ணம் இருந்துச்சு. ஆனால் நான் இப்படி ஒரு காரியம் பண்ணுறேன், அந்த காரியத்தினால அந்த கோயிலுக்கு களங்கம் ஏற்படக்கூடாதுன்னு தான் அதை பெரியார் சிலை முன்னாடி நடத்துகிறேன். கடவுள் இல்லைன்னு சொல்கிறவங்களுக்கு முன்னாடி கடவுளுக்காக ஒரு விஷயம் செய்யும், அதுதான் என்னோட எண்ணம். இதையும் இந்த பதிவையும் எல்லாரும் ஷேர் பண்ணி விடுங்க. நன்றி. பூர்ணச்சந்திரன், மதுரை. வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு அரோகரா. வீரவேல் முருகனுக்கு அரோகரா.
All right, I want to go for a quick face-off on this. Narayanan Tirupati is chief spokesperson of the Tamil Nadu BJP. C. Rajasekaran, lawyer and political analyst. Mr. Tirupati, this audio has been put out by some people close to his family. We don't know, we can't vouch for the audio. The BJP is saying this, the DMK is saying this is some morphed audio, this is not believable, and so on and so forth. Be that as it may, it brings to sharp relief the anguish of not just this unfortunate, devotee who committed suicide, who self-immolated, but thousands, in fact millions of Hindu devotees in Tamil Nadu who are anguished by the decision of the DMK government to appeal against the order by Justice G.R. Swaminathan allowing Hindus to light the lamp at the Deebathoon. The state government's contention is there is no recorded history that the Deebathoon is where this lamp was lit over the last 100 years or so. That matter is still pending in appeal before the High Court. They are saying you are needlessly politicizing this issue. How will you respond?
No, Dhaka, nobody is politicizing this. This is the government which has politicized this, and the government of Tamil Nadu, the state government, has hurt millions and millions of Hindus, their sentiments and emotions. That is what the government has done. Even in this suicide Zaka, not only the denial of the government to light the lamp there, but the reason given by the government during the appeal, say the Waqf board, which is supported by the government, says that it is not it belongs to the Dargah, and the HRNC board itself says that it is not a Hindu place, it is a Jain's place. And the temple management says that it is not a Deebathoon, it is only a survey stone. So all these things have definitely troubled him. And the government wantedly, in order to appeasement of minorities, elections are nearing. It is communal. This DMK government is communal, and it has supported. It wants them to eradicate Sanatana Dharma. That is what the policy of Mr. Udayanithi Stalin, who has said that both the Dravidian ideology and the Christian ideology are same. Today, that is what he has said. I feel it is a derogatory to bring a religion to that of Dravidian ideology. So these people, for want of votes, communally, they have killed one person. That is what I say. It is a blunt, I am telling you, it is killing, and the government has to take responsibility for this.
Okay, Mr. Rajsekharan, this whole thing would have, gone off the news cycle. This whole story would have died a natural death had the state government just followed the order of the single judge bench of the High Court. It is because the state government went in appeal and then, did all of this drama around the impeachment motion around Justice Swaminathan that ultimately it came to this situation where the government is seemingly seen as disregarding the sentiment of millions of Hindu faithful in the state. The government could have well avoided this entire controversy by just accepting the single judge bench order.
Zaga, for a kind information, the government, whichever government it may be, when the matter is before the court, before the division bench on appeal, it is a duty of the government to bring the facts to the knowledge of the court.